Today, let's find out how Nintendo's next handheld device will be bigger than what anyone else can expect this year, and how Apple got sued for $5 billion. And you probably won't guess the reason. And more AMD CPUs just can't stop exploding. Let's get into it. Nintendo just dropped a serious bomb, the Switch 2, which is launching on June 5th, and let me tell you, this little Switch isn't playing around. Thanks to a custom chip from Nvidia, it's getting better game support, better screen, and Mario Kart is going to be exclusive to this handheld device. It's got controllers that double as mice, a double USB-C port, because only handhelds used by poor people use one USB-C port. Ugh. And a C button for seamless in-game communication with a camera on the console, because Nintendo obviously wants to know when you rage quit on their console. But if you want the regular version of the Switch, it'll cost you around $449. And if you want Mario Kart paired with it, that would be around $499. But let's be honest, that's just like $500. I like to talk about performance, but let's be real, right now I don't trust Nvidia, but maybe, just maybe, with some fancy software update, you might see AI upscaling on it, but don't hold your breath. What you can hold your breath for is game share. Meaning, if I buy a multiplayer game and unfortunately my friends don't, we can still play all together, but I spend the money and they basically freeload. So that's good. The catch, only a few games are supported at the current moment, with the promise of adding more. But suspiciously enough, Nintendo didn't give exact figures at how many users it can support, but it feels less of a revolution and more of a, here's a taste of something nice, can't you wait to start paying for it? But let's move on. Later on, you find out how OpenAI is having their GPUs melted and how Elon Musk is essentially cooked with his stunts. Firstly, ChatGPT's image generator went mega viral. So viral that OpenAI gained 1 million users in just an hour. And the best part, it's free. Well, kind of. You're limited to how many things you can do, because of course there is a limit. But not everyone's celebrating. Turns out it's really good at making fake but convincing receipts, which is great news for fraudsters, but terrible news for, well, society. OpenAI swears that they are adding metadata to flag AI-generated images, and they're watching it closely to make sure that things don't spiral out of control. Meanwhile, OpenAI's GPUs are getting cooked, and I mean literally. Under these insane demands of image generation, and I have tried some myself, shameless plug, check out my Instagram. But seriously, RIP to these fallen graphics cards. Hopefully that $40 billion that they recently raised in their funding helps replace some of those fallen graphics cards. And speaking of fallen, Tesla is, but not crashing yet. Vehicle deliveries are down 13% year over year and 32% down quarter over quarter. Meanwhile, Model 3 sales in Europe took a nosedive by over 30% in the first 2 months of 2025. Oh, and let's not forget the over $200 million worth of Cybertruck inventory just collecting dust. To make things worse, BYD keeps winning. No amount of tariff magic is going to stop that anytime soon. So here's my thought. Should Elon Musk just step down, resign, and give the CEO seat to a different person, just like he did with Twitter, so he can just ride off into the sunset and pursue his political career, just like he's doing now, because this is really hurting Tesla. But, my good sir, may I offer you a hot cup of quick news? Samsung's putting solid-state batteries in everything except their flagship phones, because I guess they're not fully convinced that these things won't go boom. 23andMe wants to sell itself for parts, and by parts I mean one of the world's largest privately held genomic databases, which is a goldmine for scientists, a nightmare for privacy advocates, and a treasure trove for shady buyers. But one thing is, the FTC is sort of breathing over their necks to ensure that that private data actually stays private, because many lineages depend on it. Meta just signed a multi-year deal with the UFC. No, it's not a deal to throw Zuckerberg into the octagon and let him fight it out to test that he is actually human. Instead, Threads is now the UFC's official social media partner, and in return, the UFC gets to sprinkle on some Meta ads all over its pay-per-view events. So basically, every knockout now comes with a friendly reminder that we have to join a platform that no one asks for. Mozilla is launching its own email service called Thundermail. Cool name, but the logo is just a bird. I guess it's just purely for the vibes. The TikTok ban in the US is almost here, and the government is actually meeting in person. Meanwhile, Trump claims the sale will happen before the ban, but Trump says a lot of things. At this point, he might just slap a tariff on his own words. That's it for the quick news, but let's get into the Apple news. And boy, oh boy, is it a total drama fest. First up, Apple has been slapped a casual $5 billion lawsuit. Why, you may ask? Because apparently, when you buy a book on Apple Books, you're not actually buying it, you're renting it indefinitely. Like that sketchy landlord who tells you, hey, the heat works, but somehow in the middle of the night you stand in your bed freezing. Here's the tea. The lawsuit claims that people thought they owned the books they bought on Apple Books, but surprise, you're actually just getting a revocable license, which means your carefully curated library can disappear if licensing rights change. No wake up, no refund, just gone. Poof. Get this, the app doesn't clearly spell out these licensing terms, no obvious link, no friendly pop-up saying, hey, by the way, you may be paying for something that could vanish like your dignity during a karaoke night. Instead, Apple's broader software terms vaguely mention that purchased content may become unavailable if Apple loses licensing rights from providers. So technically, they didn't mention it. You know, it's just buried in a bunch of legal jargon no one remembers or even cares to read about. Apple's suggestion, just download and back everything you buy, because nothing screams a reliable purchase like having to do your own disaster prep. It kind of makes you wonder what you really own when you hit that shiny buy button, but apparently your digital library is more like a lease, and you're basically just paying rent on your own books. Moving on to more drama, because why stop there? An iOS 18.4 bug has delayed the highly anticipated firmware for the Airpods Max. You know, the one that's supposed to make them sound better and make those picky hardware engineers to ditch their non-Apple devices. But thanks to the bug, those engineers can just stick out gear, because Apple's official response was, coming soon, why do you want to rush it? So, no, you don't get the right to brag about how your overpriced headsets sound marginally better. That bragging privilege is coming at some unspecified. And I promise we're not done yet, because Apple just filed a patent for a phone that's made entirely of glass. Yep, no metal, just pure sleek, breakable beauty. Imagine dropping it and asking Apple to repair it. They probably charge you a kidney for repairing it. Though it sounds wild, but recent iOS 19 leaks showed into translucent, glassy vibe, so maybe this isn't just a weird tech fever dream. Plus, we might get an underneath facial recognition and front-facing cameras from the looks of it. Would you buy an all-glass iPhone and put a case on it, because it would just defeat the whole purpose of having an all-glass phone? And how would the buttons function? I hope they're not touch sensitive, because no one has cracked how to do those yet. But just remember, it's just a patent, so the phone might not actually get made. And to end this drama on a high note, on a paranoid note, 5 VPNs on the App Store just got linked to China. Yep, you heard that right. A joint investigation by the Tech Transparency Project and the Financial Times just found that 5 VPNs available on the App Store and Google Play Store have ties to companies connected to the Chinese military. So if you downloaded Turbo VPN, VPN Proxy Master, Thunder VPN, Snap VPN, or Signal Secure VPN, congrats, the CCP might just have your data. Apple has since removed 2 of these apps, Thunder and Snap VPN, from the App Store, but the status of the other 3 VPNs still remains in the air. So you might want to double check what VPN you've got installed before you start, Speaking of spicy, let's get into the gaming news, and I promise you that you will be begging for milk after this one. First up, AMD's CPU just went boom for Redditor. But he's not alone. Over 100 cases have been reported so far. Most of these fiery failures happened on an ASRock motherboard, but also popped off literally on other brands too. The main culprit, the Ryzen 7 9800 X3D, which accounts for most of the failures, but the Ryzen 9 9950 X3D also made its mark on this Redditor by overheating and exploding during an extended gaming session. We know AMD was cooking these CPUs, but not literally cooking the CPUs. Xbox and ROG might be teaming up, and if this obvious and unsubtle trailer is anything to go by, we're probably looking at ROG behind Microsoft's rumored handheld codenamed Project Keenan. Honestly, Microsoft better cook with this one because the handheld market is getting way too competitive. Between the Steam Deck and the ROG Ally and whatever else is cooking, they can't afford to drop the ball. And knowing Microsoft, they might just do a Nintendo and make some games exclusive to this handheld, because nothing says next gen like having to buy a new handheld device just to play a handful of games. But what marketing stunts do you think Microsoft will use for this one? Moving on, Roblox wants to launch ads on its games. Rewarded video ads will allow players to earn in-game rewards like currency and power-ups by watching full-screen ads. These ads will be courtesy of Google. Only players aged 13 and older will be shown ads, although they hope to include digital billboards and promotional roles on the platform. Now, I'm no fool, but it looks like this game may start offering ads whether you like it or not in the future, because companies now just look to give you ads and then give you a subscription service to get rid of the ads that they first put in place in the app that you used to use that never had ads in the first place. But to round up this spicy sort of news, here's something mild from Intel. The new CEO has finally given his speech. They grow up so fast. But he basically gave the normal corporate jargon: we'll be better, we'll make better things, and we'll make more money. The first production phase of their 18A node will begin shortly with the Panther CPUs, which may launch in 2026 and hopefully won't be dog shit.